Hi, and welcome to another GDR Objectified field trip. Today we find ourselves in Marzahn, a district on the eastern edge of what once was the capital of the German Democratic Republic. Marzahn had the distinction of being the largest housing estate built during the GDR era. Erected between 1977 and 88, nearly 60,000 apartments were built here, housing close to 200,000 East Berliners. This was a classic socialist housing project built with prefab blocks. Our focus here today, though, is going to be very much on the public art that was built into the whole estate. Interestingly, the art was not an afterthought, but something that was developed along with the plans for the site. And in reflecting the approach of the Honecker era, which is when this estate went up, there was a real focus on displaying a range of artistic languages and styles and forms here. The other thing that's quite significant about Marzahn and the art you'll find here is the relative lack of political ideological art. So there are some pieces here, some notable exceptions to that, but by and large, the committee that was charged with planning the art for this site rejected quite openly any sort of political ideological content, or much political ideological content, arguing that this contributed to monotony and would not help citizens appreciate these newly built districts. So it's sort of flies in the face of what we often would think of in terms of, state socialist art projects. So what I'm going to try to do here today with you is give you a bit of sense of the variety of art that you'll find here in Marzahn, and there is much to find. As you can probably hear from the pitter-patter of raindrops on the corrugated roof of this S-Bahn station, we have managed to time our visit with a poor weather day. Berlin needs the rain, but it would have been nice if it could have waited for a day. At any rate, we shall persist upwards and onwards. An excellent example of how the art in Marzahn reflects the Honecker opinion that there were to be no taboos in art, provided the artist began from a socialist position, is this ensemble of works created for the people's own Stern radio factory in Marzahn by Gertrude Pohl in the 1980s. Its abstract visual language clearly contrasts with notions of socialist realism. So we are at the Springfuhl S-Bahn station in the heart of the Marzahn district, near the Helena Weigel-Platz, named after the famous German actress of the 20th century, who was also the wife of Bertolt Brecht. And this piece you see here is a stylized Richtkrone, which is a form used in Europe to celebrate the completion of a construction project. The pedestal here, we have this square within which is a human form, and the plants growing over it have obscured the arm, but this was basically the silhouette of the brigadier giving the signal for the first prefabricated slab to be lifted into place. Hand raised here on the right hand side, but there's also a poem that was composed for the day, and I will give you a little bit of a translation here. Is a reproduction of a massive bronze relief by Walter Romacker, Man and Space, which originally stands on the Alexanderplatz at what was the GDR's House of Travel. It is here on the street known as the Cosmonauts Allee and is dedicated to the East German cosmonaut Zygmunt Jähn, who was the only East German to explore the cosmos in 1978 and who came to Marzahn and planted the trees we see in behind here on his visit. In this relief, the theme of man conquering the cosmos is addressed, and at the center we have a man, woman, and cosmonaut. It's Ale, is the actual Helena Weidelplatz. And this is decorated with some interesting bronze sculpture and is home to the Marzahn District City Hall. Built in 1988, it still holds the district administration. And as luck would have it, there's an exhibition here at the Council Hall headquarters for an artist with Eastern German roots named Harald Mettges on the occasion of his 90th anniversary. He was not an artist who was willing to conform to the SED regime and had his work marginalized as a result, but he did thematize Marzahn in one of his main works and has some interesting images and works to share on the post-unification German landscape. So let's go inside and have a look. S-Bahn station, Pulchaustrasse, which features some notable public art. This ceramic tiled mosaic, and it features a number of notable sites from Berlin. We see here, center of the screen, the red City Hall, the TV tower, the World Time Clock. The author of this piece is sadly unknown, but it remains intact here and is well worth checking out. Considerable distance from central East Berlin, Marzahn was originally designed as a standalone district with its own core of services, shops, and leisure activities to serve the population that would live here. At the center of this, the main drag, so to speak, was the Marzahner Promenade, so the Marzahn Promenade. You see over my shoulder. In the years since unification, there have been considerable changes made in this area. One of the key ones has been the building of the Eastgate shopping mall behind me, right at the foot of what was the Marzahner Promenade. This still exists, but it has been modified significantly. There's a lot of public art to be found on the promenade, as you might expect, and we're going to head over there now to have a look. By design, the promenade is a pedestrian-only mall, which is flanked on either side by apartment blocks. The ground floor features restaurants, pubs, cafes, services of various types, pharmacies, etc. The public art we encounter is this bronze statue dedicated to the construction workers who built the district. It has become something of a landmark for the area. It's interesting to note that officially this work was credited to two artists, one of whom had a slightly edgy relationship with the regime, the other of whom was quite a supporter. Upon the death of the former, the local newspaper credited only the regime loyalist with its construction, although evidence suggests that he had little, if anything, to do with the actual artwork itself. The widow of the aggrieved party took the matter further and complained to the local district to have a retraction correction printed. This took some time and caused some waves in the community here. The second major piece of art we find on the promenade is this massive mural by Walter Womack, an important state-approved artist of considerable talent. The title of this work is Labor and the Happiness of Man, and its theme is technological progress and man's mastery thereof. From this elevation in the middle of the promenade, we can see how the post-unification era has increased the densification of shops by filling in part of the promenade area itself. For comparison, here's a view from the same spot in 1989. Another work found here in Marzahn, which deviates from what we might expect in a socialist housing estate, is this work by Hans Tichy from 1981. Originally, it was installed on a school cafeteria building serving kids from neighboring schools. It's now a school sports club and youth club. As you can see, what we're looking at here is more reminiscent of pop art or Bauhaus influences than anything one might associate with state socialist art. And behind me here, a second mural, again by Professor Womacka, this one entitled Peace. At the center, we have a mother embracing her child. The theme here is very much the life that is possible only in a world or in a place of peace. Also have the dove, of course, so a lot of classic iconography here. We're at the north end of the Marzahn Promenade, which features the second of what were to be 3 sculpture installations. We've seen the first, dedicated to the builders of Marzahn, and the second one is a 3-piece sculpture by Ingeborg Hunzinger, designed in the mid-80s, finished off in the early 90s, and it consists of 3 parts. The title of the work is dedicated to communists and anti-fascist resistance fighters, and the 3 pieces are as follows. First, to my immediate right here, is the defeated, the unbending. The third work here is the liberated. Note the right arm and the balled fist, the symbol of the Weimar era red front, progressive workers movement. Hunzinger suggests that she wanted to use a visual language different than the usual agitprop or memorial architecture, memorial design, and approach something more metaphorical. Sculpture dedicated to the Soviet soldier was also to be installed here on the promenade, but the Wende happened and that project was understandably cancelled. So just across from the promenade is this 3-meter tall cement pillar entitled Family and Nature by Lothar Rechtacek. And basically the theme here is a family and their free time activities. At the top we can see some doves. As we make our way around the work, the family will be revealed. This form was quite popular in the GDR-era housing estates. You'll see a lot of these cement pillars sprinkled throughout them. GDR history is that in the aftermath of the putsch by Pinochet in Chile, which overthrew Salvador Allende, many supporters of the Allende regime ended up taking refuge in the GDR. One of them was the artist responsible for a series of murals here in Marzahn, which used to grace a polytechnic high school. The artist in question's name was Victor Contreras, and his work was entitled Man and Nature. It's characterized by flowing lines which unite the natural and the human, very much in the tradition of Latin American mural painters. Have been kept, if somewhat dilapidated by the weather. A third is obscured by undergrowth, unfortunately. One of the tactics for counteracting the monotony of the building methods in Marzahn was to commission artworks for the ends of the buildings, large-scale works designed to brighten things up. Here's some colored mosaics on the Jan Petersenstrasse. Many of these works have fallen victim to renovation work over the last 30 years, specifically work designed to introduce insulation to these buildings. So this is a great way to wrap up our trip. We're here in the courtyard of a municipal building in the district of Marzahn-Hellersdorf, where the city council has taken the very progressive step of preserving pieces of public art which lose their sight when changes are made to the physical space of the area. So when buildings are renovated, torn down, replaced, etc. So we find a few key pieces of GDR work here in the courtyard, and it's nice to see that the District Council has recognized the value that these works have to the quality of life of residents here. So, as you can see, trip out to the District of Marzahn is certainly worth your time. Hope you've enjoyed our little visit out here today, and that some of you get the chance to come here and explore yourself. Till next time on GDR Objectified. Tschüss!
It was